Hello, this story is called Helena and the Wild Man. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Once upon a time there was a king who had many fine fields of corn, but every night something was eating his crops. One day his farmers told him there would soon be no grain left, so he sent his soldiers to watch at night to find out who was stealing his crops. After 3 nights the thief was caught. It was a creature shaped like a human, but all covered with hair. He was so wild that it took 6 men to hold him down and tie him up. The wild man was brought to the king's palace and shut up in a tower. He groaned and wept and cried day after day. Now the king's young daughter, Helena, had a bedroom not far away from where the wild man was kept. She could hear his crying, and it kept her awake and made her very miserable. After 3 nights she could no longer bear it, so she crept down and let the wild man out. When the king found that his prisoner had escaped, he was furious and swore to punish the person who had opened the door. "I set the wild man free," said Helena. "Then you must leave this place and never come back," said the king. So the princess was sent off into the forest with no one but her maid to look after her. Now this maid was really cold-hearted. As they passed a deep well, the maid gave Helena a sudden shove so that she fell down the hole. As Helena fell, the maid held on to her long golden hair. "Pull me up! Pull me up!" called poor Helena. "Only if you promise to change clothes with me, so that people think that I am the princess and you are the servant," said the maid. "Very well, I promise," said the princess, for what else could she do? "Please pull me up," said Helena. "Only if you promise that you will never tell anyone you are really the princess," said the maid. So Helena promised that too. Then the wicked maid pulled her up, and the two changed clothes. They wandered on until they came to the palace of another king. He made them very welcome because he believed the maid was a foreign princess who might be the right bride for his son. But the maid did not trust Helena to keep her promise, so she looked for a way to get rid of her. The king had many wild animals in cages in his garden. One day the maid said to him, "It must be very expensive to feed all these animals every day. You could just let them out into the forest to find their own food." "That would be all very well," said the king, "but how would I ever get them back again at the end of the day?" "Oh," said the false princess, "my servant could do that. She was brought up as a goat herd." So poor Helena was told to take all the bears from the cages into the forest and see that they found their own food. Taking them into the forest was not difficult, but once there, they all ran off into the trees. Helena sat down on a log and began to cry. "How shall I ever collect them all again?" she wondered. As she sat crying, a large, hairy creature approached her. It was not one of the wandering bears. It was the wild man whom she had set free. "What is the matter, my lady? Why are you crying?" he asked. "Because I have let the king's bears run away. How shall worry," said the wild man kindly. "Take this little drum, and every evening, when evening comes, tap on it with your fingers, not too loud, and then you will see what you will see." He gave the drum to Helena, and at sunset she tapped on it gently with her fingers. All the bears came dancing back and followed her without the least trouble into the king's garden and their cages. Everybody at the palace was amazed, particularly the wicked maid, but the maid said to the king, "You see, your majesty, what I told you was quite true. Now tomorrow let my girl take out the wolves." So Helena was told that she must take out the wolves, and if she failed to bring them back, she would be punished. When Helena let them out of their cages, all the wolves raced out of the garden and into the forest. Helena saw them vanish. She sat down on a tree stump and cried. "How can I ever get them back?" she thought. "Why are you crying, lady?" said a voice, and there stood the wild man. This time he held a small pipe. "Blow on this at evening time," he said, "and the wolves will come to you without any trouble." So at sunset Helena blew on her little pipe, and the wolves came running from all parts of the forest. They followed her back to their cages as she walked in front, playing a cheerful tune on her pipe. This made the false princess very angry, but she smiled and said to the king, "Tomorrow your servant had better order my servant to let out the birds. Tell her that if she fails to get them back, you will punish her." The king had thousands of birds in cages. "Helena will never be able to get all those birds back again," thought the false princess. So Helena was given her orders. The cages were opened and the birds rose up in a huge cloud. Helena wandered off into the forest. "Now I really am in trouble," thought Helena. But the wild man came to see her again. "Here is a little bell," he said. "Ring it at sunset and the birds will come to you." So at sunset Helena rang her little bell. All the birds returned to her in a huge cloud and flew above her as she walked back to the palace. The king was astonished and said to her, "Because of your cleverness, I would like you to marry my son and be the queen of this kingdom." Hearing his words, the wicked maid nearly burst with rage. But Helena said, "Oh, thank you, your majesty, but I don't wish to marry your son. I am going to marry the wild man in the forest." She turned and walked away, ringing her little bell, tapping on her drum, playing on her pipe. All the cage doors burst open, and the wolves and bears followed her, and the birds flew over her head. "This was your fault," said the furious king to the wicked maid, and he had her locked up. But Helena lived happily in the forest with the wild man, the wolves, the bears,